it's party time. My golf story brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers. And the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com. Now here's your host, Kevin Walsh.
Hey, welcome to the program. We got a good one for you today. We have Jim Roy, professional golfer who he's an older gentleman, but he's a younger guy that has flirted with shooting his age a couple of times. Played the PGA Tour. He has stories about Lee Trevino, Gary Player, and Jack Nicklaus, Freddie Couples as well. And his son, Kevin, has played on the PGA Tour. He's on the Korn Ferry Tour. This is almost, I think, the Roy family in a lot of ways might be the first family of golf, at least professional golf in all of its experience. Fascinating interview coming up. Big thanks to our title sponsors, Party Drinks. If you're looking for an alternative golf beverage on the golf course, if you're tired of beer, the hard seltzers, then Party is for golfers, by golfers. I know for a fact that you would absolutely love it. For a list of drink locations where you can find it, log on to our website at drinkparty.com. And a big thanks to the golf real estate professionals, Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro from Fine Properties on Florida's Suncoast. If your dream is to own a house in Southwest Florida on a golf course, or if you already live in such locations and you're looking to sell, and it's a good time to sell because it's the market's pretty high, then Gene and Vince can take good care of you. Check them out at Fine Properties, suncoastdreams.com, or you can also check them out at 941-220-4000. Hey, one other thing. Please like the podcast and subscribe to it if you haven't done it already. If you've done that, I really appreciate it. For those who are new to the podcast, please do that. That helps us on the back end with the bean counters at YouTube and other places. All right, Jim Roy, welcome to the program. I've been looking forward to talking to you. Well, it's kind of I just can't believe that it took us so long to meet one another because we live in the same neighborhood at Lakewood National. And it took a block party for us to finally break bread, so to speak. Let me ask you, did you take any throws at me when I was in the dunk tank on that 58-degree day?
You know, you challenged us. I was standing with a friend of mine in the driveway, but these little kids were having some success against you, Kevin. And they a couple of times you got dunked, and then you did challenge us. And I said, geez, I don't really know this guy. He's hosting a party. But I was ready to get my left arm a little loose and send you in that water. But nope, I never took a shot at you.
I didn't know that you were lefty. I knew that you were a baseball player. And so you must have been in the group of guys that I was calling out. Now, with the children, yes. I was encouraging them to come along. And it was positive encouragement. For the guys, I was probably calling you guys names. And those that partook, including one of my neighbors, Fred, candy arm.
Yeah,
right.
I saw a couple soft efforts, but no, you did good. You were a good sport. It was a little chilly. So, yeah, you were a brave soul to let the kids have some fun and you get wet.
That was a great party. We're lucky to live where we do at Lakewood National on Florida's Suncoast. We're lucky that we have golf in our lives in such a profound way. Maybe to get a little momentum, take me back to your rookie year on the PGA Tour and maybe some Lee Trevino stories, because he has never disappointed me, or stories about him in any way.
Well, this even happened before I got my tour card. So back in Syracuse, they had a great tournament as an amateur. It was called the Herald Am at that point after the newspaper, and you would play 72 holes, 18 holes on 4 different courses. And back then, if you won the tournament, you were going to be a participant in a golf exhibition that the American Heart Association was putting on. And that year, Lee Trevino and Nancy Lopez were going to come and do an exhibition in Syracuse. And I was fortunate enough to win that tournament. So I played, I think this was probably in 1979, 1980. I played with Lee Trevino and Nancy Lopez in an exhibition in Syracuse. And as you might imagine, I was a freshman or sophomore in college. So, had some golf experience, obviously, but never this kind of an experience with 4,000 or 5,000 people came to watch us play. And so I was pretty nervous, but was doing all right. on the first 9. Trevino was very nice. Nancy Lopez was the best player in women's golf at the time. And she was a really sweet lady, and she could really play. She played from the same tees as us. She hit the same irons as we did on the par 3s. Just a really nice lady. Trevino was nonstop talking, as you might imagine. The only time I've ever played with anybody that had no numbers on their irons, they were all filed off. And he had dime-like sweet spots on almost every iron, including a 2-iron. So anyway, after 9 holes, I think Trevino was 1 under. So we got going on the back 9, and he birdied the first 7 holes on the back 9 in this exhibition. And we're standing on the 17th tee, and people were running across the fairway, and beverages were being served. It's 80 degrees and sunny, and they're yelling Lee's name. And he came up to me and put his arm around me on the tee on 17 while we were waiting to hit. And he said, Jim, I hit it like this every day of my life. If I make any putts at all, there's no man alive that can beat me. And I'm like, wow. And he used a little more colorful language than that. But he drove it down the middle on 17. He hit a wedge to 5 feet. He had a 5-footer to go make 8 birdies in a row. He missed that. And then 18, he hit a driver down the middle and hit a 6-iron that hit the flag and stopped a foot from the hole. So he birdied 8 holes out of 9.
Holy smokes.
Which I had really never seen before. So this was so now in 1983, I have my PGA Tour card, and it's Saturday morning at the Houston Open. And I'm on the putting green, and some of the greats of the game back then, Nicklaus and Weiskopf, and I see Trevino on the putting green, and I'm a rookie. So I'm not running up to these guys, saying hi. It's a little intimidating, right? So I go, you know what? I'm going to go up there and say hi to Mr. Trevino. So I go up to him, and he's putting, and I kind of standing about maybe 10, 15 feet from him. And he probably noticed I was right there. And he looked up to me, and I said, hey, Mr. Trevino, my name is Jim Roy. I played with you a couple of years ago in a golf exhibition for the American Heart Association. And without me saying another thing, he looked right at me and goes, I birdied 8 out of 9, didn't I? And I go, yes, you did. So it was kind of funny that even the Hall of Famers know when they have a special day, and they never forget it, right?
I guess you're right. That's an incredible story. And man, you told that almost as well as maybe he could tell it. It sounds like you have all the vivid details still in your mind. But let me ask you, as it's unfolding, and you saw their games. I mean, Nancy was the top player in the world at the time. Lee still had it.
Yeah.
Were you thinking, hey, I got something here? Or were you thinking, I got a lot of work to do?
Probably somewhere in the middle. I didn't really think like I could compare myself to those guys, to both of them, Nancy and Lee. I mean, I tried to compare myself but Trevino never missed a shot. And really, Nancy Lopez really didn't miss a shot. I shot even par that day, which I didn't think was bad. It wasn't a particularly hard course. The backside was kind of tight, but I had never played in front of that many people before. So that was a little unnerving, but, and there were a couple shots where, the first time I had to hit through tunnels of people, I was more concerned with not taking somebody's head off with a quick pull or something. But it was probably right in the middle. I don't think I was at that stage. I'm sure I was dreaming maybe of being able to play on the PGA Tour, but it wasn't like I was some college All-American or something that was really compared. I was just enjoying it. And so that was a great time. And let me fast forward, because there's actually another nugget to the story. So I got
there always is. Let's hear it.
Well,
Give it to me.
I got my Champions Tour card in 2000, and I played 2010. And my first tournament was down in Naples. And I'm walking into the locker room, and I see off to the right that Dave Marr Jr. was about to give a live interview with Lee Trevino and Gary Player. And so I wanted to stop and listen to the interview. And there was, a number of people there, maybe 20, 30 people around waiting for the interview to start. And Dave Marr saw me. Now, he had just interviewed me a month before when I got my card for the Golf Channel. So he saw me and he wanted to wave me into the interview. And I said, no. I'm not, you just do your thing. So they interviewed them for a while, and apparently they went to a commercial break or something. So he calls me in and introduces me to Trevino and Gary Player. And I had said to Trevino, I said, you and I've played golf together. And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? So I rehashed the story to him. And of course, he remembered it right away. And he said, isn't that something? 2 Mexicans playing golf in Syracuse, New York. I birdied 8 out of 9. So that was 30 years earlier. So, that was, obviously I'll never forget that story, watching him. And the following year, Kevin, I won the same tournament, and I got to play with Arnold Palmer in the exhibition. And the great Ernie Banks from the Chicago Cubs.
Wow. So, my gosh.
So Palmer, of course.
Tell me about that. What was, I have an Arnold story for you, but it seems like everybody else has one, and theirs are just incredible. Tell me about yours.
This one was incredible. I played, with Palmer, same thing, big crowd. The first hole, I had about a 5 or 6 foot putt for par. And I'm squatting down, ready to line it up. And Arnold comes walking up and he taps the ball to me and he says, Jim, we don't putt those today. And I was going, oh, great. My score is going to be good today. So he was everything you've ever heard about Arnold Palmer, about as charismatic as you can get. Drove it down the middle of every fairway with a little tight draw. But the best part of that day was afterwards, there was a big dinner. And I was sitting next to Arnold Palmer at the head table. And he started asking me some questions. I was not married. This was the following year. So I'm in college, but I am dating my wife at the time. And her mom was battling breast cancer and going through her second bout with it, and just finished up chemo treatments. And she was in this big banquet hall. She came and she was at the end table, and she was a huge Arnold Palmer fan. So we got talking, and I mentioned that to Palmer, that she was here and she's a big fan. And, he got up, he asked me where she was, and I pointed her way out. He had to walk the whole way. He got up from the head table and walked all the way to her table and introduced, not like he has to introduce himself, but mentioned to her that, he knew what she was going through, and she was a fan of Arnold's Army, and he wanted her to know that he was rooting for her and to hang in there with a good attitude, blah, 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 which is amazing that he did that. But what's even more amazing is 2 weeks later, she got a personal note from Palmer saying how great it was to meet her and to play with me, and always know that Arnie's Army is behind you. And my mother-in-law is since passed away, but she lasted about 30 years after that. So
it's none of what you
great Arnold Palmer story.
It sure is, but they're all good, and they're all real. And I think what was really special about Arnold is he made you really feel like your story and your life was important, because, like you said, he asked you about your life, listened intently, acted upon it. That's who he was, right? For those that don't know.
No one would have thought less of Arnold Palmer if he didn't write the letter afterwards. Can you imagine this guy, like the biggest sports icon, one of you could still almost say that, right? But that's why he's Arnold Palmer, the extra step. And he was very cool, really good guy. And, I'll never forget what he did there for my mother-in-law.
I met him at Pebble Beach in 2000, and he just pulled up in a car. It was like he fell out of the sky, and I started talking to him, and then people started coming out of stores. And by this point, he was in his early 70s, and he was particularly hard of hearing. So as I was talking to him, he kept like saddling up next to me, and he was cocking his head and tilting his ear so I could talk right in his ear. And it was so close. He was almost stepping on my shoes. And as I'm talking into his ear, a couple thoughts are going through my head. head. I'm like, I can't believe I'm talking into Arnold Palmer's ear.
Right.
And I can't believe how hairy his ears are. and then people are coming out of stores, and like, as I'm like talking in his ear and trying to think of questions, I'd occasionally look up and people are like staring right at me. I was so nervous until he diffused me, and then I felt like I was talking to an old friend. Is that how it was for you? Like at some point, did you like, this guy's really cool, I'm really comfortable?
Yeah, inside the ropes, he was talking to me all the time. He was, he was the king. And everybody wanted. He had that ability to connect with people. There's 4,000 or 5,000 people follow him around, and it's almost like everyone had an Arnold Palmer experience, right? I mean, walking from tee to tee, giving a high five or signing an autograph, and he had the best autograph ever. And
his penmanship, he took his signature. Like, you look at people's signatures today, you can't even read them.
Right.
Like his, always looked good because he took pride in his signature.
Yeah, he never rushed an autograph. He signed it perfectly, and he was the king, right? Yeah. I mean, so yeah, that was a great experience, for me, and obviously my parents got to meet him, and the whole thing. So it was great.
Yeah, miss him greatly. The game misses him greatly too. Jim Roy is our guest today on It's Party Time, my golf story. He has a very fascinating golf story. Big thanks to our title sponsor, Party Drinks. If you're looking to an alternative to the tired old seltzers or whatever it is on the golf course, try a Party. And for a list of the places where it is sold, golf courses, especially on Florida Suncoast, but all over the country, check out drinkparty.com. And also big thanks to our golf real estate pros, the big pros, Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro from Fine Properties on Florida Suncoast. If your dream is to own a house on a golf property, or you already do, and it's time for you to sell for whatever reason it is, they can help you out. Check them out at suncoastdreams.com, or you can call 941-220-4000. Jim, take me back. Well, first of all, how old are you?
I am 64. 65 in August.
When did you start playing golf? Where does it all start?
I think, I dabbled with it from 11 years, 12 years old. Back when I was growing up, we kind of did everything, all the sports, in the neighborhoods. We'd be playing outside basketball, and we played baseball. And, my parents belonged to a course called Bellevue Country Club. And I just remember my mom, playing on Tuesdays. She'd go and play with the women, and maybe occasionally 9 holes on another day. And then I went with her a couple of times, and, liked it. I don't remember struggling terribly when starting out. I wasn't any good, but I could hit the ball, at least make contact. And, so, baseball was really my first love growing up, and I played that through Babe Ruth. So that, I think, is 16 years old. So probably around 15 is when I really kind of got serious about, really loving golf, and really wanted to try to get good at it. And so after I was done with Babe Ruth baseball, I kind of got into golf. But for the first 2 or 3 years, I just played golf with my mom's clubs and with some buddies, and as it turned out, some of those buddies got the same interests as me. So ended up playing golf like every day, after that. It was either 9 holes or, as many as we could get in. So we didn't have a driving range when I first started playing. So it was just constantly playing golf or chipping and putting on the putting green, waiting till 4 p.m. when the kids could go out and play.
Oh, you had one of those places where you had to wait. Yeah. I grew up at a similar place, Huntington Valley Country Club in suburban Philadelphia. Bellevue is upstate New York, central New York?
Syracuse, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. An old Donald Ross course.
Oh, love
it. Short, very tight, tough greens. And I was very fortunate to, I'm still a member there. And actually I teach golf there now in the summertime, but, it was a great place to grow up. And like I said, my best friend was a good golfer. Actually, beat me one time in the Syracuse junior districts, which, really didn't sit well with me, but it made me work a little harder. It's not good when your
there
best
you go.
beat you. You know, I said,
Right.
I can remember my mom actually driving me home from that match, and she goes, "Man, you're really grumpy." I go, "Well, Mom, you know, I mean, Spence just beat me, and so I told her to actually stop the car and let me out because I wanted to go practice because I didn't want to have that happen again." But we were fortunate to have some kids that were really good. My high school team was great. We didn't lose a match for 4 years, so it was a good situation where I was, you know, I had some
Whoa! Back that up. You guys didn't lose a match for 4 years?
We didn't. And the odd thing is we never won the state title. So we never lost a match. We lost the state title my senior year by 3 shots. And I think I finished third or fourth in the individual. But, you know, we played against like Joey Sindelar and Jeff Sluman and Mike Hulbert and Tom Patry, you know, from different areas of New York State. But we had a good high school team.
I'd say so. If you haven't lost a match in 4 straight years, that's better than my high school team. We had a good one, not as good as yours. When did you know? So you ended up going to University of South Florida, yep. But when in your heart of hearts were you like, I'm good? Because all competitive golfers, I'm convinced, are massively internally cocky. They have to be. The trick is just to be humble about it and graceful on the outside.
You know, I remember sitting in my bedroom writing letters to like Wake Forest and, you know, the University of Florida, and kind of knowing deep down I was never going to be on those teams. Coming from Syracuse, New York, I mean, I was a good player, but, you know, when I compare myself to kids today, I was like, holy mackerel. I mean, because these kids now, when they're freshmen in high school, they're shooting. Some of them are shooting in their 60s and are really good. So
and hitting it 300 plus. Which
yeah. So I had received a partial scholarship to University of Maryland to go play golf, and I thought that was big. ACC Division I. Actually went down and looked at the campus, and it was July of I was about to go into freshman in college. In July that summer, a friend of mine asked me if I had ever heard of South Florida. And I said, no, I really hadn't. And he said, well, geez, I know the coach there. You want me to call him? And I go, okay. So he calls the coach, and the coach, you know, I guess trusted my buddy and said, yeah, if he wants to come down, we'd love to see him. But I did. I flew down in July, and a gentleman named Bo Baugh picked me up, and Bo played the tour 6 or 7 years. And his nephew, Eric Cole, is one of the stars on the PGA Tour now. Has had a great year. So Bo picks me up, great player. We go to the University of South Florida golf course, which was named the Claw. It's 100 degrees. I'm wearing a navy blue shirt and plaid pants. Think I'm looking good, but I looked at it didn't look too good now that I look at it. But I played 9 holes with these guys, and the coach wasn't allowed to watch me play or anything. And after 9 holes, Bo went in to talk to the coach. The coach came out and said he'd love to have me down here, but he didn't have any money to give, you know, to offer me. But if I could make the starting 5 and starting in January, he would give me a full scholarship. So I went home to my dad and I told him, and he said, well, you know, do what you think you want to do. So I went down to South Florida and got on the starting 5 in the fall, and I got a full scholarship starting that January. So that's how that story went.
Wow. And a good college career. And then you went to tour school right away, right after that?
Yeah, right after that. So I graduated and went to the tour school. It was the first year. It was just when the stadium course opened up.
Stadium course at La Quinta, right, in California?
No, stadium course at Ponte Vedra.
Oh, we're talking like TPC Sawgrass?
Yeah, Sawgrass.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
It was the first year it was opened up, and I remember playing at practice rounds with Brad Faxon, and we were going, how the heck do you shoot under 80 at this place? This is the hardest course I've ever seen in my life. And we played 4 rounds there, and we played 2 rounds across the street at Sawgrass Country Club, which was a very difficult golf course too. So, yeah, I mean, you had to go through 2 72-hole qualifiers to get to the finals. So
right, and you're in the finals, and it's go. You got your card your first try, right?
Yeah.
Okay, take me to the end where you're really sweating it out, because those are the good parts where guys are almost about to lose control of all bodily functions. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it was it was nerve wracking. I think I was either on the number or just outside the number. And the last day was, mid 50s, windy, occasional, rain, not downpour, but just kind of nuisance rain. And, I was playing pretty well. I thought I was doing pretty good. And I remember birdieing the 16th hole, the par 5. It's funny, how golfers' memories are. I remember hitting a driver and a 3-iron about 10 yards short of the green and chipping it close, and I made a birdie. And then we had to go to the famous island hole, and they had the pin. They had the pin over there on the right-hand side.
You didn't go for it.
It's into the wind. The gentleman, I won't give his name out, but the gentleman in front of me chunked it, and the ball got halfway to the green and went in the water. And so it was my turn, and believe it or not, I had 6-iron out. So that's what the conditions were like. And
holy, wait a minute, because
yes.
It's so only so that's a 3-club wind almost.
Yeah, it was blowing pretty good, and my shot at the time, it's a shot that I really love to hit, is kind of this little low fade. The wind was into me. I was going to aim it at the middle of the green. I wasn't trying to be a hero. And I remember standing over the ball, and I remember my eyes watering a little bit. Don't know if, either I was about ready to puke or the wind, I don't know. But I remember saying to myself, don't hit it. So I stepped away and got up over it, and I hit the shot, and I hit it really good. And I looked up, and I was staying that week with another great golfing family, the Matisse family. And
Len Matisse, he almost won it. We remember the story with his mom,
right,
in her final days with cancer. Oh my gosh!
So I played college golf with his two brothers, Ken and Bob Matisse, and so I was staying with the Matisses that week. And their dad, Lou, who has since passed, really nice guy and a big golf fan. He followed me every hole, the final round, and he was up by the green, where that walkway is into 17. He was standing on the cart path near there. So the ball landed like in the middle of the green, but it had a little cut spin, and it caught the ridge, and it rolled down to a foot from the hole. And I tap in for a 2. So I'm now walking to 18, and I know if I can just finish, I'm going to get my tour card. And
what
18,
was that like? All right. So sometimes just like,
well,
I mean, were you thinking 7-iron?
The only thing I was thinking is don't hook it. The problem is, as a good golfer, don't hook it means you're going to probably hit it way right? And that's exactly what I did. And back then, that hill that you see on TV were high weeds. I mean, they were wispy, but it was high grass. So I hit it in there, and I had to chip it out. And I still had another 3-iron, and I hit it in those chocolate drops, front right of the green. And the ball was like eye high, and the pin's back left. And my mind's racing a little bit, but I'm like, okay, let's just get this on the green, make a 5. We're fine, right? So I chip it, and I give it too much, and it hits and overspins and goes into the back bunker. So now
you're really spinning.
Now I'm trying to remember what I lie. So I'm going, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my God, I hit my 5th shot. But luckily I hit the bunker shot to about 2 feet. So I made a 6 on the hole, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I made a 6 on the hole, and I ended up making it by like 3 shots. So it wasn't, we didn't have leaderboards back then and scoreboards. You didn't really know where you stood, but you kind of have an instinctive feel for what you got to do. But so that was obviously really exciting to make that. And another thing I remember is Donnie Hammond beat everybody by about 15 shots.
Yeah, Donnie Hammond was the guy back in the day.
Donnie
he used to hit.
He kicked everybody's butt that week.
Yeah, he was the guy. He used to tee balls up on pencils, and I think he played Titleist DT. Which I couldn't believe an elite player was using a non-balata ball, or at least at certain times in his career. Yeah. So when you're on tour, Was there a welcome to the PGA Tour moment where you're like, holy smokes?
Well, the first tournament I played in was the Phoenix Open, and I didn't know I was in until the day before. And I was actually in Syracuse, New York, because it didn't look like I was going to get in. I got a phone call, and I got on a plane. I got to Phoenix at like 1 or 2 in the morning and had to tee it up at like, a rookie tee time at like, 7:48 or something. So I remember my very first hole on the tour, I popped up my tee shot. It was a driver, 7-iron par 4. I had a 4-wood in, and I hit it over the green. I chipped it to about 8 feet and somehow made the putt for a par. So that was my beginning on the PGA Tour. But I do remember missing the cut. And then the next week I played with it played in the Bing Crosby Clambake at Pebble Beach, and was paired with Tom Lehman. And I think, I don't know, I want to say I finished maybe 28th, 30th, something like that. So it was, to me, it was, hey, that's pretty good, right? I mean, I got to play Cypress Point, Spyglass, and Pebble. Got paired with Tom Kite, I think, on the 3rd round of that tournament. So that was exciting. And, my year was close call year. I think I made 9 or 10 cuts. I probably missed 6 or 7 other cuts. I missed 10 cuts by a shot, and maybe 3 or 4 others by 2 shots. So of all the tournaments I played in, I think I was really out of it maybe 4 or 5 times. I qualified for the U.S. Open that year, so I got to play at Oakmont in the U.S. Open. So, yeah, I mean, I was disappointed. Obviously, I lost my card, and back then you didn't have Korn Ferry and tours like that. So, it was a year kind of on the mini tours in Orlando, the JC Goosey Tour, and went back to the finals a few more times. Never quite got my card back. So decided to get my amateur status back. I was a mortgage broker at the time. Didn't play really any competitive golf for almost 4 years. And then I got my amateur status back, was still basically, married, and we had 3 kids, Cheryl and I. And so I would play maybe 2 or 3 tournaments a year. That was it. I'd play in a state tournament maybe, or try to get in a USAM. And, I did that for 17, 18 years. Still love to practice. I live right near the golf course. So I didn't play as much because of the young kids. I'm coaching them in basketball and baseball and that kind of thing.
Yeah, being a dad.
Yeah. And really, I always had golf in the back of my mind, but it wasn't my life anymore. I mean, I love practicing. I'll be hitting balls today. I love practicing. I just, it's kind of spiritual for me, and it kind of helps my teaching. I like to experiment with things and see what I can do to maybe help some other people. But, and then I turned 50, and my kids actually encouraged me and my wife to try the Champions Tour, which, the odds are pretty tough there. You get 5 exempt spots. You have to go through a 72-hole qualifier just to get to the finals. And I did that, and I went to the finals, and got the 5th spot in a playoff. And suddenly I'm like, okay, now I turn pro again and go play a year on the Champions Tour.
Well, just stop for a minute. So your 2 shots at tour school, you made it through first try on the PGA Tour, and your first shot at it on the Senior Tour now, the Champions Tour.
Yeah.
You got through.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else has done that.
A friend of mine back home in Syracuse who really follows golf, he has said the same thing. I never really thought about it, but he goes, I bet you there's nobody that's ever done that. And he might be right. I don't know, especially since I went as an amateur, right? I mean, I wasn't playing, professional golf at the time. So
yeah, you had a pressure pack putt though. You were in a playoff. Tell me about what's going through your mind. I want to feel it. So make me feel it. Okay.
So I started the final round, 2 shots off the top 5. So I was playing well. I had a tough break the 3rd round. I had a 7-iron that hit a sprinkler head on the fringe of a green and ricocheted 40 yards out of bounds. and I ended up shooting 73 that day. And it took me out of the top 5, and I was around 8th place or something. But I was playing good. So anyway, fast forward, I shoot 66 the final round, and there's probably 5 or 6 groups left to finish. So when I finished, I was leading.
Sweating it out.
I was
You're
leading
sweating it out.
Yeah, I was leading in the clubhouse, but I knew, there was a lot, 5 or 6 more groups. So, but I had a feeling that, 66 was pretty good in the final round. And I think that put me at 12 under. And so I remember telling my caddy, you just stay right here. It was right near the scoreboard. I wanted him to be in one place in case I needed him. And then I just shut my phone off because I didn't want to get a bunch of texts and all that stuff. And I remember taking a 9-iron, and I went to the driving range. And of course, there's no one on the range. I mean, I'm by myself because it's the last round, but I needed to kill some time. So I was hitting 40-yard 9-irons, and then I'd take a full 9-iron, just kind of kill time. And I'm noticing how many groups finish. So after a while, I walked back into the pro shop, and now I'm trying to kill time. I'm going to buy a shirt to bring home to Syracuse. And all of a sudden, I think I hear my name. The scoreboard was just outside the pro shop. So I walk out, and I said, excuse me, did you just say something about Jim Roy or something? He goes, yeah. And I go, well, I'm Jim Roy. He goes, well, you're in a playoff for the last spot. You're on the first tee. And I go, when is it? And he points over to the first tee. And there's 2 guys, Bruce Vaughn and Kurt Hannafeld. And Bruce just won the Senior British Open the year before. And they're on the tee. And so I tell my caddy, who's right there, I go, let's go. We got to go. So back that, they let us use a cart. And so we draw names, and I'm the last guy to hit. It's a short par 4. It's not a driver hole. There's water left. Fairway bunker you don't want to be in down the right-hand side. And they both hit 3 woods down the middle. And I had a utility club that I used all week, and I hit that and down the middle. And it had a 9-iron left. And thank God I never thought of this, but about every 9-iron I hit on the driving range, I just kept mishitting. I mean, I was hitting the ball good when I played, but maybe it was just, I don't know what, but I kept mishitting them on the range, trying to kill time. And I hit a 9-iron. It was into the sun. So the sun's setting and the pin's back right. And I just remember you can't miss it right because it goes down this bank. And you got to shoot at it. It's a playoff, and it's a 9-iron. So, I mean, I'm trying to hit it close, and I hit it, and I remember seeing the ball take off, but I couldn't see it land because of the sun. And I remember when I saw it take off, I knew it was on line, and it landed, and there were some players that had come out to watch the playoff, and they clapped. So I'm figuring, okay, that's got to be pretty good. So they both hit. Bruce missed his shot to the right down this bank, and then Kurt hit it about 20 feet pin high left, and we got up there, and I had about 8 feet. Yeah, 8 or 9 feet for birdie.
What kind of a putt is it? Is it a tough
putt?
I mean, if it wasn't the pressure.
It was the putt you just love to have. I mean,
good.
The greens were quick, so I didn't have to worry about how hard to hit it or anything. If it was going to do anything, it might move a little left. So Bruce gets up and hits his chip. He had no shot really, and he hits it 25 feet. So now he's got a putt. And he makes it. He knocks it in for a par. So now I remember telling my caddy that if I have a chance to make this putt, I'm going to make it to win. But what I didn't know if I'd make it if Kurt made his. You know what I mean? So I had to get by Kurt's putt. And obviously he's playing well. So I didn't know whether to watch him putt or not. Pretend I'm not going to watch him putt. I don't know. So anyway, I just remember kind of staring at the ground, and he hit his putt, and I kind of looked at it, and it looked real good. And I'm just watching it, and he hit a beautiful putt, and it just massaged the high side on the left side, and it didn't go in. So now all of a sudden, I got a putt to get my card, and I felt good. I mean, I was nervous, but I wasn't. It was a good nervousness. I mean, I was playing well. Right. So, I mean, I figured I was going to hit a good putt. And I remember making my practice strokes. I usually make 2 practice strokes. And when I got up to make my practice strokes, man, nerves hit me. Like I can remember.
What do you mean? Like, are your hands shaking or?
It kind of elevated. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like this is a big putt. And I told the story before, and I don't know why. It would have been easy for me, or any golfer to think, don't leave it short, or you don't want to pull it. But for whatever reason, it came into my mind. You've made 1 million of these in your life. This is going to be 1,000,001 right here. And it was such a weird thing. It's not like I'm a, sports psychologist guru, but that's what I thought about. And I hit the putt and it went right in the heart. Couldn't have missed. It was as soon as I looked at the ball on its way, I said, that can't miss. And it went in. And,
wow.
So now I'm like, now what do I do? I have a job in real estate, and now, suddenly I'm being interviewed by the Golf Channel, and it was exciting. I remember borrowing a phone from one of the camera ladies because I knew I'd better touch base at home with my wife, and she answered the phone, and neither of us could talk. She was crying. All of a sudden it hit me, and I couldn't even talk. And I said, I'll try to call you back when I can. So it was, and I didn't know that there was like 40 people at my house back in Syracuse staring at the computer, and my sons, they were all, nervous, and they were all being nervous about changing anything. Like, no, you got to sit in that chair. You can't move. We can't.
Superstition stuff.
They're all being superstitious, and so it was that was an exciting time for sure.
That's cool. I feel like I was with you on the putt or maybe on the bag. Now you have your son, Kevin, is kind of living the life that you lived. Yeah. What's that like to see it all unfold? And I'm sure you're proud as hell, but is it hard to watch your son play pro golf when there's not much you can do? He's just got to do his thing. Or can you help him?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm learning. I'm way better at it. Okay, so now because you can follow every shot, if I'm not there personally, and so I try not to. I try to keep myself busy and occasionally check and see how he's doing. But no, I think I certainly know what he's going through. And I just remind myself there's nothing I can really do. He's a good player. He wouldn't be out there if he wasn't a good player. I think his best golf's still ahead of him. I think he's he's a little bit of a late bloomer. You say, we're a little bit alike, man. I tell you what, we're kind of a lot alike as far as how the career aspect of it. He's a better player than I was. I think that's easy to say as generations. I mean, we both had different strengths. My strength was short game. He can really strike the golf ball. He played out there last year on the tour. He missed 9 cuts by a shot like I did. He had a couple of good finishes at the end, which I think has given him some confidence. And then he's back on the Korn Ferry, and he got second this year in the first tournament. And if he can get in the top 30, he can get back out there. So he's got some goals. He's knows what he has to work on. I love when I have an opportunity to caddy for him. It's easier for me actually because I'm kind of in the arena with him. And so I'll probably caddy a couple times. I've caddied for him. I caddied for him when he got his tour card. I caddied for him just this past December when he had to go to the final stage to get Korn Ferry status. So we have a good time when I'm caddying. He's the boss. I don't really say much unless I'm asked, or if I really think he's about to mess up with a decision. So I love caddying for him, but I understand, this is his gig. It's not my gig. And I think he belongs on the PGA Tour, but that doesn't mean you're going to make it and you're, going to have a career out there. It's tough.
You would know, it's having played the tour and then,
yeah. And there's a lot of good players out there, but he's one of them, and I think all he needs is probably what I needed is the confidence to know that you're already good enough. Right. Because I think it's easy to get on the tour. And now you think, oh my God, I got to get way better. These guys are really good. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think you just got to take your game and believe that that's good enough, not somebody else's game.
I think you're right about that. Jim Roy is our guest here on It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks and also the real estate pros, Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro, suncoastdreams.com. And you can call them at 941-220-4000. Jim, I told you I was going to talk to you for a half hour. We're 45 minutes in. You don't mind if we keep going and maybe break it up in two parts? Okay, great.
That's great.
Great. Two golfers talking. And by the way, we're going to follow up our interview with Jim with his son, Kevin Roy, who's playing the Corn Ferry Tour right now. So just to bring everybody up to speed where we are, that's kind of how it's all unfolding. Gary Player stories, you got some for me?
Well, yeah, it's not a super great story, but I mean, it's Gary Player, World Hall of Famer. So this was when I was a rookie on the tour. I played with him in the final round of the Canadian Open. And of course, back then, I kept seeing in Golf Digest, Gary Player is a great bunker player, best in the world, blah, blah, blah. And he had that big caddy, Rabbit Dyer, I think his name was. Big, like 6'8" guy, huge guy. And so I got paired with him and a gentleman named Jim Nelford, who was a Canadian. So we had like big crowds. We weren't threatening to win the tournament, but it was Gary Player, right? So the very first hole, he hits it in a bunker. And he has his caddy take the pin out, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, watch this!" And he doesn't hit the hole; it almost goes in. So, long story short, he was in 4 bunkers. He got everyone up and down. Really didn't even have to putt. And I had a flop shot on the 17th hole. I had no shot basically, and I take this big swing and I flop it up in the air, and it comes out perfect, and it rolls down to a tap in and. He comes up to me and he puts his arm around me. He says, "Jimmy, you'll have to show me that shot after the round." And I'm thinking to myself, there's Gary Player, like he doesn't have that shot. I think he was being really nice. But again, if I fast forward, and this is 1983. So in 1989, I qualified for the U.S. Open at Oak Hill, which is right down the road from my house, 80 miles down from the house. And I played a practice round with Steve Elkington and Brad Faxon. And I hadn't played much competitive golf at all. And so I went back out to play 9 more holes by myself was my goal, and just hitting shots with people watching. Cause there's a pretty good gallery just in practice rounds. And I teed off on number 1 and I'm walking off the tee, and all of a sudden I hear somebody yell, "Whoa," and I turn around, it's Gary Player. And he says, "Do you mind if I join you?" So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, again, I haven't played much competitive golf in 5 or 6 years, and now Gary Player's joining me. So
these are great stories. What do you mean? It's not that great.
Well, so then I had hit a great tee shot on the first hole, and he hit one, and I was like 50 yards past him. So he says, "Jimmy, is that your tee shot down there?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Man, you're a long hitter, my man." And so anyway, we played 2 holes, and I can see on the 3rd hole, it's a tough par 3 at Oak Hill, and I can see a backup, and and I'm nervous, like this is not the arena that I've been used to, right? I mean, I'm playing golf with my buddies back home at Bellevue, and now I'm playing with Gary Player, and I can tell that we're going to have to join the group in front of us because there's 2 guys on the 3rd tee, and I know we're going to walk up there and they're going to say, "Why don't we join them?" Because they're going to know Gary Player, because the 2 guys are Ben Crenshaw and Hale Irwin. So we walk up to the 3rd tee, and of course they see Gary, and "Hey Gary, how you doing?" Blah blah blah, and he's good. He's saying, he goes. And so I introduced myself. I knew Crenshaw's caddy, Tony Navarro, who still's caddy on the PGA Tour. Tony caddied for Jeff Sluman a lot when we were rookies. So he recognized me, and so I knew them. I got introduced to Crenshaw and Irwin. And Gary's like, "Oh, you should see Jim hit the ball. He hits it so far," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me." So anyway, I play the next 7 holes with those guys. And the first round is the next day, and I'm getting my golf shoes on, and my locker is against the wall. So you have to walk down the whole aisle to get to my locker. And I can sense somebody's, as I'm tying my shoes, I can sense somebody's at the end of the row, and it's Hale Irwin. And he walks down to me and says, "Hey, Jim, I enjoyed yesterday. Good luck out there today." And I became a Hale Irwin fan. Like, he didn't have to do that. I wouldn't have thought anything less of Hale Irwin for not doing that. So that's kind of my Gary Player story. That, of course, I told him I had played with him, 6 years earlier at the Canadian Open, and he pretended, "Oh yeah, sure," like he remembered that event. But they were just great. Crenshaw was great. Irwin was great. Gary Player was great.
Your imitations of those guys are pretty good too. The Gary Player spot on, and the Hale Irwin was sneaky good too. Is this an unknown talent of Jim Roy?
Well, it's definitely unknown. But I mean, Player, he's an amazing guy. He's not a really big guy, and to think what he did in the game of golf, talk about positive attitude, and of course, he was all about fitness even before Tiger came around, right? Yeah, really fun. I mean, in the U.S. Open, the energy and all that, and the playing one near your home was really cool.
Oh, it's fantastic. Freddie Couples, how many rounds have you played with him, or you got a couple stories about Freddie?
Well, Freddie, so I'm a rookie on the tour, and we're playing in the Kemper Open at Congressional, and this is Freddie Couples' first win on the PGA Tour. He wins in a playoff, and I finished, middle of the pack, played all right. But the next day we had a 36-hole qualifier to get in the U.S. Open at Oakmont, and it was a Bethesda Country Club. And Fred had to play in the qualifier, even though he won the Kemper Open. So I got paired with Lee Elder in a twosome. We all played in twosomes. And so I played 36 holes with Lee Elder. And I'm on the 36th hole, and it's a dogleg right. I don't know how I stand. I know I'm playing all right. And I see this figure out in the distance walking towards the tee. I hit my tee shot, and it goes just in the right rough. And by the time I get up to my ball, it's a friend of mine from Syracuse, New York, that was in the Washington area and knew I was playing. And he came out to the course to see how I was doing. And I said to him, "Hey, I'm playing pretty good, but can you go on up to the green and find out what score is going to be needed?" And so he does. He runs up there, but and I remember hitting like a 6-iron, and it came up short. I was playing for a flyer, it comes up about 10 yards short. So by the time I get up to my ball, he comes down and he says to me, "You need birdie to get into a playoff." And I got to chip it. I mean, Kevin, you can't make this up. I got to chip it up a ridge to a back left pin. And I hit this little wedge that hits into the hill. So it hits into the hill, gets up to the top and kind of checks, and it goes right in the hole.
Oh.
So I birdie it, and I end up getting in a playoff. 7 guys for 2 spots.
Now, are you guys all going out in a 7-some? Because sometimes they do that.
Sometimes they do that. But what happened was a thunderstorm came in, big storm, and they moved the playoff to the next morning. So we had to go there at 7:00 in the morning. So I show up, and by the time I get there, I'm playing in the first group. It's going to be a threesome, me, Freddie Couples, and Bobby Watkins. We're going to play number 1, and then we're going to let the other guys come up and see what happens, and go from there. Now, so Couples just won, and I didn't know Freddie, so he gets up. I don't even think he hit a warm-up shot, because I remember seeing his car pull in, and he just gets out of the car, and and I had to hit first, and I hit a 3-wood down the middle of the fairway. And Couples gets up with a 1-iron and just sends this thing straight in the air. It was just unbelievable.
No warm up. Hair's perfect.
Just unbelievable. And we all make par. And one guy bogeys in the group behind. So now we all go to the second hole, which is this downhill par 3, like 2 15. Now this is old equipment, right? I mean, so I'm hitting like a 3-iron, and I hit it left of the green, and Couples hits a 5-iron, the highest, prettiest shot you ever want to see, 8 feet from the hole. And I'm like, uh-oh, here comes a birdie here. And I chip it 7 feet past. He misses. I make it. And one other guy bogeys it. So now we're going to play. Now it's a 5-some going to the next hole. And it's a good hole, hard hole. And Fred Couples and I are the only 2 guys to par it. So it was like a big thrill for me. I had never played in a major. I mean, I was a rookie on the
So you
tour.
and Freddie are in. That's it.
So Freddie and I win the playoff to go to Oakmont. Now, this is the funny thing about golf. This has got to be 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, I was an investor in a company, and as it turned out, so was Fred Couples and Phil Mickelson and a couple other golfers or something. And they had a golf exhibition. This company put on a golf exhibition in just outside of Syracuse. And they asked me if I wanted to caddy for Fred Couples. I go, yeah, that'd be a riot, So we're in the locker room beforehand, and we go in there, and Freddie is talking with Phil Mickelson, and the guy caddying for Phil, I knew, and he was a golfer. And so Phil says to me, like, hey, you guys play golf? And I go, yeah, we play. And so Mickelson goes, well, maybe we'll have a caddy, a caddy match. I'll take my guy, Freddie, and you can take your guy. And so Couple says
so Freddie, it wasn't Joe LaCava back in the, or was it Joe?
No, this is just an exhibition. So
okay, so
flew in to do an exhibition. So
Freddie, so it wasn't her standard.
Freddie asked me if I was any good. Are you any good? And I go, I don't know. You and I won a playoff to get in the U.S. Open in 1983. And he goes, holy shit. Oops, sorry. He goes,
no, that's fine. It's a podcast.
He goes,
tell it how it unfolded. Yeah, don't worry.
I go, yeah. So Freddie's like, all right, I got my partner, so it was just kind of a funny exchange. And then, just the talent of Couples on the second hole that day, again, big crowds. I mean, 5,000-6,000 people following Mickelson and Couples. And I'm caddying for Couples. And he misses the green on the second hole, and he's waiting for Phil to hit. And I see Couples, he's practicing chipping cross-handed, right? Making practice strokes. And I'm like, geez, I didn't know Freddie chipped cross-handed. I watch golf all the time. And so he chips this shot. It was he used like a 9-iron. It was like a long chip, like 40, 50 feet. And he chips it right in the hole, cross-handed. And we're walking to the next tee, and Mickelson gets on the tee and goes, Freddie, how long have you been chipping cross-handed? He goes, that's the first time I ever tried it. And I just
sounds about right, because he's one of those guys that, he can just do things like that. A special guy.
So the first time he ever tried, he chips it in front of 5,000-6,000 people. I was like, whoa, that's just a different level right there.
Rare air.
But he was a great guy, and man, he just hit some incredible looking shots when I caddied for him.
Oh, I bet. Have you ever shot your age or come close?
Came close last year. Missed by a shot. I shot a 64. Shot 64 just before. Well, it was actually 2 years ago now. I shot a 64 when I was 63, and that's obviously the closest. I did shoot a 61 when I was 58. So 3 shots is obviously a lot, but it seemed like it was close. Put it that way. So maybe this year we'll see. It'll be fun.
Yeah. What's the state of your game? Are you going to get back and compete? Is that an option, or are you just chasing the scores and just the love of the game? You stay involved.
There's a part of me that would still love to, try to play good in tournaments. What was it? Maybe 3 years ago, I played in the Senior U.S. Open. So I qualified there in Pennsylvania and shot a 66 to qualify. And I also qualified for another Senior Open maybe 5 years ago now. So I still enjoy it. I'll probably try to qualify for the Senior U.S. Open this year, but I don't chase. Well, I take that back. This is how hard it is, Kevin. There's a senior event in Binghamton, New York, and I tried to Monday qualify for it this past summer. I had to do a pre-qualifier, which I made it through. And then I shot 66 in the Monday qualifier and got in a 5-for-1 playoff and didn't win the playoff. So 66 wasn't good enough.
Well, there's still the joy in shooting low scores. And I got a great feeling that you're gonna shoot your age or beat it, because I mean, what would it take? I mean, the game's real solid right now. How much time do you spend working on your game now?
I still love practicing. It's always been something that's never been hard for me to do. I just like it. I like the solitude of it, I think. And I still think I can get better. I'm realistic. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I've noticed as you get older and playing is, at least in my case, is concentration. I don't think, I think there's more lapses in concentration that I notice. Physically, I feel really good. I work at it. I try to stay in pretty good shape. And when I feel like I'm swinging good, distance isn't a problem. Nerves are still pretty good, chipping and putting. So the thing that I lack is consistent competitive rounds, of playing consistently in competition, because, there's a big difference between playing with your buddies and playing in a tournament. We like to think we can make it the same, but it's just not the same, right?
Oh, it's not even close. Social golf and competitive golf are two totally different animals. So you're doing some more teaching now. What does that do for you? Do you feel like seeing the aha moment in people? How does it fill you up and make you feel good?
I think that's a good way that you express it right there. If I can get somebody to play better, I think it's great. I mean, this is what they do in their spare time, so it's important to them. This is what they're trying to do to have fun. I think I can give them, I have a couple lessons this afternoon, and I feel like if I can make their time of having fun better, then I think I'm giving back to the game. And I just like kind of sharing what I think I know about golf and my golf experiences with somebody else. And if that works out for them, that's great.
I think what you're sharing is your love for golf, and you're trying to help them find it within themselves, and playing better certainly helps with that. Final question for you here. What would life be like without golf? How profound has golf been, the role that it's played in your life?
Well, it's been huge in my life. It was big in my life in the business world. It was great to take clients or prospective clients to the golf course. I think golf, as you, I think, would agree, teaches you humility. It gives you confidence. It teaches you have to have some character. I don't think neither of us have met a lot of jerks in golf, right? I don't think you last in the game a long time if you're really just not nice to people, right? I mean, I got to see a lot of things. My kids have caddied for me in major championships. I've caddied for my son in big time tournaments. My wife came from a golfing family, so my brothers-in-laws have caddied for me in big tournaments. It's my family has been with me in some great tournaments when I was an amateur, in the Porter Cup, in U.S. Amateurs. We've gone to some great places. So without golf, I am very fortunate. I've married a great lady almost 40 years ago. It'll be our 40th wedding anniversary coming up. So if I'm not playing golf, my life is still going to be great. My family's great. We have 4 grandchildren now. I hope, God willing, we can introduce them to the game. And so, if golf was taken away, it would be a void in my life for sure. But my life will still be great because I've got a lot of great friends, and my family's great.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you as a neighbor.
I know, right down the street. And next time you're in that dunk tank, I'm going to give you my fastball.
Okay, well, then maybe I'll find somebody else, because I know you're a good athlete and you would actually hit the target on, like Fred, our neighbor who has a candy arm. Listen, Jim, let's keep in touch, and wish you nothing but the best. And at some point, you and I are going to have to get out there. Okay?
Absolutely. And Kevin, thanks for asking. And I really enjoyed it.
All right. If you golf, you're my friend, and you're my friend. Harvey
right,
Penick said it. I've said it before. Stay with me here as I just do some final wrapping up. Jim Roy's been our guest here on It's Party Time, My Golf Story. His story is a great one. And coming up a little bit later, we're going to hear the story of his son, Kevin Roy, who will be our next guest on the program. So you'll want to stick around for that. Big thanks to Jim. Big thanks to Party Drinks, the title sponsor. And a big thanks to Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro from suncoastdreams.com, a division of Fine Properties. If your dream is to live on a golf course, or if you live on one and you want to sell your house, they're the golf real estate pros. For Jim Roy, I'm Kevin Walsh. We'll see you again next time on It's Party Time, My Golf Story.
You've been listening to It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers, and the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com or call 941-220-4000.
This is Vince Vizzacaro and Gene Walsh with the suncoastdreams.com real estate team at Fine Properties. We've helped hundreds of families find their dream homes in golf and resort communities in Lakewood Ranch, Bradenton, Sarasota, Parrish, Venice, and the surrounding areas.
Let us be your guides to finding your dream home here as well. Learn more at suncoastdreams.com or call us at 941-220-4000.